got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you wanna talk fun, it's the place to be. Yeah, it's the drop, D-R-O-P.
Hey, this is Taylor with Believe in the Run.
And this is Reese with Believe in the Run.
And you are now listening to the Dirt Division podcast, which again, we kind of started last week with our first one, kind of. I'm calling it our first one. This would be number 2. And it still feels big to me. Yeah. We talked about last week of having, like I was going to have a beer or something. I was thinking about it on the run, but we both brought tea. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do it next week. But now I got kombucha. Yeah, and I have coffee. And so it just goes with it. Either way, it feels big enough to drink whatever you want, really. At least to me. But how you doing this week?
Not bad. As soon as I'm done with this conversation, I go to physical therapy in like a panic. I think
it's just our reality right now.
Yeah. It feels like the accumulation of everything over the summer always kind of comes to a head at some time in the fall for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get really excited to not run for a while and just like, I don't know, drink more wine than I otherwise would. And just not run, honestly.
Which is,
I don't know.
But what do you... See, I'm the kind, I just want to run, even when I'm riding bike, and I've really enjoyed it recently. I am in that IPOS crowd right now, and injured piece of shit. You familiar?
All right. I like that.
Yeah. So
that's a good.
I don't really actually think I'm in.
I was like, is that a new operating system from Mac?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's my new operating system because that's just my existence. But I just love to run. And so obviously it'll come to head at some point if you're not kind of strengthening, especially after you get over 30, apparently is the number.
That's kind of what's happening. It's like I went a little too hard and my knee and my nerves were like, no girl, you gotta not. And
chill.
Nerves are
just
very...
chill.
Yeah, nerves are like very interesting and they get spicy. And when they're spicy, like if your muscles tighten around a nerve, it's just not fun. And nerves just really like space and movement and not to be constricted. And so this weekend, it was like my knee was all tweaked out. I like couldn't straighten it. And like I freaked out, went to the physical therapist, got dry needling, went and got a massage.
Which is the best. If you haven't had dry needling.
Did, like, nothing on Saturday. I just like laid down in Normatex. and I got a massage. And I was like, I am falling apart.
So had you been dealing with this kind of stuff for a while? And because I mean, it's well documented that I have for a while, and I wouldn't say I've ignored it, but I also didn't do... Like right now I'm kicking myself. I basically just took a week off of running and either didn't do anything, which kind of feels good at this season because I was supposed to do New York City, supposed to do JFK with you guys, and actually felt really good to kind of come to terms with it and just say, no, I'm not. And so even just sitting around actually has been really good for me, or riding bike has been really good for me, even though I'd rather be running. But it did make me realize that I probably should have, way back in February or April when this was really starting, I get too into my goals and then I think of okay, if I take 2 weeks off now, what is that? How does that push everything? Which I'm usually good at putting things into perspective, but apparently not with running. But now hindsight, right?
Yeah. I feel like I'm monomaniacal about rest and knowing the difference between bad injury and run through injury, which is maybe not a real term. And everyone's that's not real. I mean,
it's kind of like the sicknesses that can you run through it? If you and you'd probably feel better.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how I felt like my injury was initially too.
okay.
Yeah.
It's I think for me, like nerve issues have always kind of been a problem. Like ages ago, and I was talking about this, I made a video on pelvic floor dysfunction because I was having what my regular doctors were like, this is prolapse. You're having, I'm like, I'm not having prolapse. I don't have a kid or I've never had children. I was like 30 something. I'm like, things are like not falling out of me. I can guarantee you that. It might feel like it, but that's not what's happening. And like the doctors were like, you need to get like a surgical mesh put in. Of course, I'm like bawling as they're telling me this. They're like, you
Yeah.
can't run. It's really bad for you. And then I talked to my friend who we used to be coworkers at Specialized, and she had perindoneuralgia, which is like there's two nerves that run like in your pelvis, and like you can't sit. It's so painful. And I chatted with her, and she was like, "You happen to be like near the best pelvic floor specialist in the country. Like you got to go see Kelly." So I went down, saw Kelly
Kelly.
Samus. Yeah, Kelly Samus. She literally like changed my entire perception of like breath work and nerves and like the emotional connection with nerves. Um, and like I had just pelvic floor dysfunction. I was breathing into like the core canister in like a weird way. And she worked out like breathing up and out instead of down into your pelvis. And then she literally dried needled my pelvic floor
Oh,
with E-stim. So you just like
I
whatever the needles are that you get for dry needling, it's just like a little longer. She goes in there. It's
see, I'm one who really in like like when I was younger, we had this one lamp in our room, growing up
yeah.
poor. We secondhand a lot of stuff, which and my mom is just like great at
Yeah.
Goodwill hunting and stuff. I don't think this lamp ended up probably being broken and shouldn't have been used, fire hazard. But if you touch like two of the screws, you could
Yeah.
just like feel the shock like go through. And I love that feeling actually.
Interesting.
So when I'm getting dry needle in the e-stim, I love that feeling. And it's hard for me to like say like, okay, that's enough because it's supposed to get to a
Yeah.
painful thing. But for
Yeah,
some
yeah.
reason, like I just like it. But also,
I really
it's one
like
of the
wanna
only things that have actually relieved my most recent injuries in the
yeah.
recent, since I've been 30, really. Like I'm 33, and I've had a couple of major injuries since I was 30. And so it kind of is that magic number for me. But
Yeah.
the dry needling has been one of the best things. But even so, I don't want to dry needle those
It
areas.
was so like I've had,
Scary? So is it
like my
scary?
back, my foot, my quad, hamstring, calf. Hands down, I would say like my hamstring feels worse than the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor,
Really?
like almost no pain. And it was just like the E-stim was like just enough that you're supposed to like feel it and then it should start like dissipating. And then she did it for like 15 or 20, 10 or 15 minutes maybe.
So
Um,
what was she? I know when you add e-stim and doing some of this dry needling, you're trying to connect what your brain wants your body part to do.
yeah,
So you're making that connection. That's a very basic
yeah,
level of what you're doing. You're making that
yeah,
connection again and reworking that ability.
yeah,
And so when you're talking about pelvic floor stuff of like obviously my wife has had a couple children and so she's
yeah,
doing, pelvic floor things pretty much the rest of her life.
yeah,
And like impactful, but like you haven't. So like what's the purpose?
yeah.
Like,
So
yeah.
what basically happened was like I was riding my bike, I changed my position and my stem height, and it just like created more pressure of like being bent over, and then I was breathing too much into the bottom, like down instead of like breathing up and out, and so
So your
all the
diaphragm itself
and like
was,
so the core canister, there's actually like a floor, and I was breathing into it instead of like
oh,
up and out,
okay.
which I didn't even know before this that there was like
Which could this happen to taller people? You're not that tall.
anyone. It can happen, and it
Okay.
happens actually a lot more to men. She said that women
Weird.
normally come in after pregnancy, and men, it's a lot with sport. And basically, it's just contraction and tension, like hypertension in your pelvic floor, which is like an actual muscle group. And the E-stim is there to kind of like release that tension. And
Mm-hmm.
then you do breathing exercises alongside of it to make sure that you're breathing
Which,
in like a belly breath way. So you're not
yeah.
breathing just in your diaphragm only. But she said like she got into doing pelvic floor work. I mean, she was a physical therapist, but she had kids, and she would have like she would pee herself occasionally, like if she laughed or whatever.
We
And the
all do it. It's
doctor,
fine. It's fine. Just
yeah, the
kidding.
doctor was like, she went to the doctor and was like, "Hey, what could I do to make this better?" And the response was like, "Wear black pants." And for her, as like a physical therapist, she was like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely not. This is not the answer."
Well, it does remind me of like, I remember being in college and we
Yeah.
started doing some like hip mobility. That was having a more like a movement centric warm up was a big thing when I was in college. Like 2010 is when I started, and it was like midway through college we started doing hip mobility exercises, like a 15-minute routine, partner exercises,
Yeah.
and our cross country team went from having like between 15 and 20% injury rate to less than 5% injury rate.
Wow.
And the only commonality that we could think of was this hip mobility. So that makes sense of like, if in a lot of runners injuries start somewhere because of hips,
Yeah.
either out of place
Totally.
or muscular groups. So it's making sense to me as you're saying this of like
Yeah.
the pelvic floor is within that whole girdle. And if that's
Yeah.
off, how it can mess with
It
everything
and
else,
it's really
apparently.
interesting how it manifests. Like, for me, it felt like what they would call like a prolapse, and then I guess for men, it shows up more as like ED or like burning pain. And she said that most men come to her after they've gone through like every STD test, all of these things, and they're like, "I don't know what's wrong with me." And she's like, "Oh, it's pelvic floor dysfunction." And it's from just like a overall too much tightness in those muscles, and it's probably pinching nerves. And when nerves gets tight and constrained, they just like
Get grumpy.
fire. It's not great.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel good.
exactly. In fire and or don't fire it, which is
Yes.
like has been my case more so of like
Interesting.
the swelling. So I have post tibial tendinopathy, which is really just like
Mm,
the spectrum of tendonitis. And so I know that can happen anywhere in your body, but so basically what has been happening is that my nerves are not causing certain muscles to fire how they should be. And
yeah.
so that has
Fair.
caused swelling and lots of, dysfunction of its own right, which I am now trying to pretty much undo, which,
Do you feel like, at least this is what I've experienced, and kind of what like Kelly has taught me, is that nerves like really, especially pelvic floor, they really respond to stress. And so when you're stressed out emotionally, it it can cause tension there. And so do you
mhm.
think that like do you notice symptoms get worse if you are mentally, physically, something emotionally stressed?
Mm,
It's
I
different because
don't
it's not like maybe the
know.
pelvic zone,
Yeah,
which
but it
carries like
makes sense
a lot
because
of
even,
emotion.
yeah, mental emotional stress can, cause a lot of chain reaction. I don't think for me, I'm not one who
Yeah.
typically gets really mentally and emotionally stressed, but I do
Oh, I
notice that it's just me, I guess. But
We're the opposite reaction to that. I'm like high emotion stress.
yeah, so I wouldn't be able to say yes or no. believe that I
Right.
would, because especially when I was teaching, like getting to the end of the quarter and getting all these assessments and getting all these kids to where they need to be, and like you're stressing about the outcomes, a lot of things you can't control. And I would
Yeah.
always get a lot of like tension headaches and more moody, of course. But like, so I can see how that would be the case. I don't think it's the case for me right now.
Yeah.
What is the case of like, it makes sense in the downhill action because the muscles that are
Yeah.
not functioning how they should be right now are responsible for basically keeping your ankle and foot in line and stabilizing
Yeah.
for downhill motion, which has a ton of force and all that kind of stuff. And so even like walking around has been fine. Running uphill has been mostly fine. Sometimes slower jogging, but really the biking has been saving me right now,
Love
which
that.
is totally your thing. And I'm going to be writing an article here pretty soon of
Oh,
how I've been using and utilizing cycling, which could be, coming from a coaching background, this is all stuff that I would have done with athletes who couldn't
yeah.
run anyways. And now I'm just doing it to myself finally.
Yeah.
But I think, and maybe you're a more healthy athlete because you do more of this more often. Like you're shooting bow, you're riding horse, you're riding bike,
Yeah.
you're running gravel, trails, roads, all of it. And I'm just pretty much like, I have time for one. And the one thing I want to
Right.
do is running. So I just keep doing that over and over and over again, even when something is wrong, apparently.
Yeah. You
But
gotta, everyone is just like one hamstring injury or ankle turn away from oblivion. So I
yeah.
feel like it's, especially as I've gotten older and I've focused more on longevity and just like I love being outside and that's really it. Like
Hmm.
moving outside. And like hiking does kind of piss me off, or it's kind of a little too slow for me.
No,
I
it,
prefer to
it
run.
totally is too slow.
But
Like I did a little
but
hike.
like
I did a dog walk the other day and I'm like, meh, this isn't all
yeah,
that fun
it
actually. I
doesn't
love
it
that my
doesn't
dog's
scratch
out
the
and I
itch.
love being outside, but let's get a little
Yeah.
quicker here. And I think my dog's also to the point of like, dude, seriously, could we like run finally or something?
Yeah. I just think like
Sorry, Timber.
having multi being a multifaceted athlete or even exerciser. I do think there's
Yeah.
a difference between exercisers and athletes. Being somewhere in there, whatever you want to call yourself, is helpful
So
because when I
what are
was
some
unable to
tips you would
run,
give? Like you
yeah,
you're primarily a runner, but
yep,
you've also, we've talked about what you've dabbled in. Like, how do you structure your week? Are you one of those athletes who structures weeks and training blocks and whatnot? Like you're building
yeah,
up to JFK, and I
yeah.
love doing that too. But again, I mostly focus on just running. So how do you routinely bring all this in? How do you do it? Like, what do you do?
Um, Mondays are normally totally off, although I do horseback ride on Monday. And so I ride horses 3 times a week, and then I run probably between 5 to 6 times a
We're gonna
week.
have to get you a cowgirl hat. I know
I won one.
you and Thomas can match.
No, I won one. I won a trail marathon in Steamboat ages ago, and the prize was a Justin's cowboy hat. It doesn't
Yes.
fit me, but
Yeah, okay,
I still
well,
have
yeah.
it somewhere.
Is that offensive
Um,
if you talk to someone who's like what do you call yourself if you ride
Equestrian?
horses? Equestrian, right? Okay. Is it you do equestrian or are you an equestrian?
So,
Like what is that?
interestingly enough, so I've been testing out this, like, Amazfit watch, and they have a feature on here,
Uh-huh.
like a sport mode. Let me find it.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
I mean,
called
I'm gonna flaunt this watch too. I'm gonna do a couple here.
oh,
Sunto. I've
well,
been doing Sunto.
this one's
They
called
also have equestrian.
equestrianism, which I did not realize that was
Equestrianism?
yeah, I didn't it's a real word, I guess, but I would just say
Okay.
I ride horses. I'm an equestrian. Um,
Okay.
I do, like, English, jumping, all of that stuff, and it's
In
like
your
a work
background, like, let's just get it out there. You're a horse nerd,
yep,
which is
majored
great.
in equine science, and then worked on like thoroughbred racing farms. One was the Sheik of Dubai, which that was a crazy horse farm that I worked on in
Wow.
Kentucky. Yeah, crazy. What a crazy, crazy world to be in.
That is
Just
a
like
crazy world.
very
In
different.
like, I mean, we talk about money in the running world.
Yeah,
Eh,
the
you
Sheik of Dubai
laugh.
is a little different. That's
Yeah,
these
yeah.
horses live better lives than like most humans, I would
I
say.
know. Okay, so the Sunto watches, they just call
Yeah.
it horseback riding. Let's
Oh,
see if
yeah.
they have multiple modes in there. I've been impressed. Like you've said your Amazfit watch that you've been testing has been pretty good, but
Wow.
Sunto, some reviews will be coming out soon. And in the wake of this whole Garmin ordeal, which I actually don't know a ton of details on it, kind of
Me
stay away
neither.
from drama. But in the wake of this whole Garmin ordeal, I would say that Sunto is a very viable option. I don't want to give too much away because I typically wear Koros and our review is coming out, but it's just another great option. Like we've talked about with running shoes, like there's a ton of great options out there from pretty much every brand, like that legitimately good. And I've been impressed because
I guess here's my rub though. And
yeah,
this is because I'm running a lot more on the road. Um, I get really bored on the road and I need music, or else
mm,
it's like overwhelming. Like I
we
need
are
something
opposite ends of the spectrum because I'm like no music, anytime, anywhere,
really.
except
On the trails,
for
I can't do music. Trails,
cycling,
no.
apparently,
Yeah. Trails, I can't. Road, I have to. And my Garmin connects to my Spotify. And
which
I
is
feel
like
like
the only watch brand that really does that, unless you do an Apple,
yeah,
which
I
their
can't.
tracking systems are, yeah, and it's Apple.
I know. And like, I feel like I'm just kind of committed to the Garmin and
Yeah.
situation because they've like bogarted the Spotify API and no one else can get it.
Do you often run with your phone though, or no?
No,
Okay.
never.
See, I almost always have a belt on and I almost always have my phone. So if you're one of those runners, really any watch is a good option because I can just do
Right.
Spotify on my phone while I'm riding with the Sunto or Koros. I could switch between songs, all that kind of stuff. But you're right, Garmin's really the only one that has other like actual music apps that you can
Yeah.
work with.
Which feels like such a weird thing to disqualify because like this Amazfit thing, like I was definitely skeptical. Like I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be just
Well,
like
with
a
a name like
half."
Amazfit, yeah, I'd
Right.
be
I was like, "I
skeptical.
hate the name." I thought it was an Amazon company.
Okay.
It's not.
Is
Um,
it has it
it
been fairly accurate in terms of
yeah.
GPS?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
And
probably like point 0.1 miles off of a Garmin every time I've
okay.
done a run, which
Which
like whatever, that's within like
my yeah, between Sunto and Koros, they've been 0.02 per mile. So
oh,
which
that's not
is
bad.
even closer. But if you
Yeah.
need like is that like a budget watch basically?
It's kind of, but not really because it has so many features. It's just less expensive, and the hardware itself
I'm gonna look
is
this up.
incredible. The display is significantly better than my Phoenix.
Okay.
And
Which
like,
what the
yep.
big thing is the AMOLED screens these days. Is
Yeah, this
that
is got a sapphire screen.
sapphire screen? So that's the durable glass,
Yep.
probably a
And
titanium backing. It looked like,
yeah, like
or
it
a
is
steel, I guess.
yeah, I think it's steel. The hardware is super nice,
Okay,
but it doesn't really they're working on integration to connect with Training Peaks, and that is my gripe because I use Training Peaks. I
okay,
used to work there, by the way, um,
huh? I
eons
feel like
ago.
you're one of the people who have, yeah, I've worked there. Yeah, yeah,
I worked
no,
there. Yeah, I know them.
Johnny and I go way back. We worked there.
I know, it's, like, the worst. I hate being that person too, and I, like, try not
Why? It's kind of
to be
cool.
like, "Oh, I know them." It's
Yeah.
like, ugh.
But I mean, once you get into like the fitness industry or the running industry,
Yeah.
it boils down pretty quickly.
Yeah. There's,
Okay,
like,
so
10
which one of those watches do you have? Do you have the Balance 2? The
I have the
T-Rex
Balance
3
too.
Pro? You don't have the T-Rex 3 Pro? Come on.
No, I want that
Okay,
one because I'm stupid
of the
and
name.
I really can't do a touchscreen while running. It is just
Okay.
incomprehensible to my brain to like figure that out. I'm like, give
Okay.
me a button. Just
Yeah.
I
Which
need a
is what
button.
I'm working through with. Like, I just finished doing the Sunto Race 2 watch, which does have a screen. I mean,
Okay.
obviously it has a screen. It has a touch screen,
It has a
but it
screen.
also has
But
the bezel on the side so you can
okay.
toggle that way and the buttons. So I'm
Okay.
struggling now that I'm going to this vertical 2, which is kind of like their
Yeah.
adventure watch basically. Um, and so like the Phoenix or the Vertex would be the
Yeah.
comparison for the other major brands, but it doesn't have that bezel, and it only like you're toggling with just this swipe screen, which I'm not used to it on a watch either.
Yeah.
I really like the being able to do a bezel, but I also get it when you have gloves on or something like that. If you're using this in
Fair.
the backcountry, but even so, like maybe that's the point. A lot of
Yeah.
gloves
I
you
don't
can do
know.
the
I think
swipe.
just like on a trail, I have like no seconds to kind of like flip through because
Hmm.
I'm probably I should be paying attention. I probably shouldn't be looking at my watch on honesty. I
Yeah.
mean, like probably shouldn't be doing that, but for
Unless
whatever
it's
reason I am.
workout day, though, I always just basically put it on like the time of day. Time of
Oh,
day and below it tells you how long you've been running. But
mm,
that's also me. I know not
yeah,
everybody likes that.
yeah,
But you're right. Just toggling through all the stuff. Your balance too, by the way, is
yeah,
$299, which is
yeah.
not, it's about $50 off for a comparison between
Okay.
Coros and Garmin's a little more expensive.
Yeah,
But Sunto too also has a $350 watch. And so if it's point 0.1 off, that's
yeah,
in the moderate to significant range of deviation, as we're calling it. But because if it was a true budget friendly watch,
yeah.
that'd be awesome. That's what we need. We need a budget friendly GPS watch.
I
That's just
know.
one of those things we need as runners,
Yes.
which I do. I do
Yeah,
always say the
Garmin is
Coros
pretty
Pace 3 is kind of like the best
okay.
value, but that's still $350. If you don't have $350, you don't have $350,
Yeah. I
right?
wanna buy a new watch, and I looked at the, Garmin, the Phoenix 8, and I was like, "Oh my god, this"
Isn't that like almost a grand? How much is that?
Yes. I was like, I would rather, like, go on a trip somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, that's a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I mean, the other watches too are up there, but
yeah,
I think they're still like $200 less.
it's
Let's
crazy.
just look it up. We're talking a lot more about watches than I thought we would
Yeah,
talk
okay, we
about.
can move on.
No, we
I
don't have to
also
move on, but it's interesting that this is pulling a lot of our attention because it's one of those pieces of gear that every single run I have a
yeah,
watch, and it's like I say that there's a couple pieces of gear that like revolutionize my trail running, but really no other has more than some of the shoes, but definitely a watch of like mapping capabilities, knowing pace and distance and all that kind of stuff is, important.
I remember when I analog trained, and this was, like I was living in Durango, with Dakota at the time, and I remember we were going to, what is it, Buffalo? Some, like, Australia, whatever, ultra marathon, and I won a Suunto watch, and it was the first GPS watch I ever had, and I remember, like, getting
What
it in
year
Durango.
was this?
Oh, geez, this was probably, like, 2014,
Okay.
maybe?
So it was right when
Buffalo
like Garmin
Stampede
was,
was the race.
yeah, really kind of coming into it too,
Yeah.
not having big watch. So Sunto back then, which is a whole part of my article that I was writing about, of like Sunto
Yeah.
back then was associated with the Solomon racing team, kind of like
Yes,
the trail runners
this was
watch.
peak
Yes.
Solomon time because I went to this race and uh it was when like Anna Frost was there still racing, Lucy
Yes.
Bartholomew, we raced, but she was like in the Solomon kit, but like wasn't pro at that point. And I remember like, oh my God, I made it. I have a GPS watch.
It
I
was a
think I
huge
still have
feeling.
it.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
it's in my cabinet.
You should weigh it to see what it.
Yeah, I want to see if it's in here.
But it was like Sunto was that brand, and then once any
Yeah.
other Garmin started taking off,
Mhm.
um, Koros came into the equation and really left Sunto in the dust, which is why I'm making such a big deal of like, I wanted a Sunto watch so bad. I wanted
Yes.
Solomon shoes and a Sunto watch, and that's all like you would
It
feel
was
like
like,
I made
for
it
me, it was like the blue. All the women had either like the light blue race kit with the blue
with the
skirt.
skirt. Yeah,
Yeah, and like that was like
go
peak.
Frosty.
Yes. Oh my God. I have so many pictures from from Australia. We spent 3 weeks there and just like toured around. I had so much fun. But I like that race I could probably talk about forever because it was such a dumb decision. Super hard. But yeah, that was like peak
But sounds amazing.
Solomon.
Yeah,
Yeah, peak Solomon Ultra. That's when it like I feel like the ignition was lit in ultras. And it's like whatever,
totally. In trail
it's like
running in
11 years
general, like
later,
that was when it all started taking off. Like it.
which I'm gonna pivot here. That's when
Okay.
trail took off. I think we're in the new phase of gravel, which follows the
Okay.
path of cycling for
hmm
sure.
We
I
mentioned
mean,
this last week a little bit too.
yeah,
Yeah, like the trajectory is
it's the same. Like mountain
it's
biking was super hot for a while. And then it went to gravel, which was more accessible because you needed less skill. You could go faster. And that's in cycling. And then I think with running, it's like a little more accessible. And then you're going to have like flyover states, which is already happening with like the Lifetime cycling series. They're incorporating running events into it
mhm.
where you just like run the gravel roads. Like permitting is easier. More
Which
people can sign up.
yeah, I'm gonna just I grew up in the Midwest, grew up in Minnesota, and I would say like many of us who have moved out of the Midwest do say that it was a great place to grow up, and it really was. Like small town, rural Midwest was great. But it was also a great place, this is my theory, to grow into running too. Of like, it gives you one, just the experience of running with no aesthetically pleasing anything around. But then in college, I, I learned,
You
so
just
you
have
learn
to
to
love it for
suffer
the
in a
sake of
way
it. It's
that,
not, yeah, you're not going anywhere crazy cool. You're just like in a hair dryer in the summer or
yeah. Oh
just
my
like in
gosh.
the barren desert of
Mm.
winter.
Yeah, which yeah, I always feel for especially Minnesotans in the winter. It's just a
Yeah.
whole nother world that I never want to live in again. But I was just back in Iowa with my family. My wife's family is from there, and every time we go back, like one, there's a lot of trails there that I would have never sought out because I wasn't a trail runner. So that's one thing. But also
Yeah.
the gravel roads in rural Midwest towns, around rural Midwest towns, are just the best of like it's probably what gravel biking feels like once you get off the road too, of like it's just the best. You feel like you get that sense of exploration and aloneness, but you don't have to think about every single step, and just the
Yeah.
rolling hills, the golden sky, the prairie. Like I love it more and more every time we go back. Never want to live there again, but I do appreciate it. Which
Yeah.
leads me to like this whole gravel racing for running should be taking off, like you said,
Yeah.
of
I
like,
think it's going to happen. And seeing all the shoes, the gravel shoes we're getting, it
mhm,
feels like
yeah,
there's a significant push within, right? Like a shoe company is not going to make a shoe unless there's demand for it or they're
hmm
forecasting a demand for it.
yeah.
So it feels like
It it
it's
still does feel premature, like in some ways. I guess calling it gravel and then equating it to gravel biking does make sense. Of like with your gravel bike, you can hit light trails, you can do pavement, but
yeah,
it's really meant for that in between for sure. And we have a lot of shoes that are in that hybrid, door to trail, gravel. It's all the same. Some people are just like meh, meh, meh about it because like just wear a road shoe or just wear a trail shoe. But I think there really is cause for it because there's a lot of people, maybe even a lot more people who are either crossing between surfaces rather than like you and I mostly doing trails all
yeah.
the time. And maybe you do
And
actually more in between too.
I do. And I have been doing more, just getting ready for like JFK, since most of it's like on a gravel-ish towpath and then a road. I've been running a lot on non-technical surfaces, even in the first like 16 miles, 15 miles are like pretty technical on the Appalachian Trail.
Well, you
But
say pretty technical, but it does have, like, from what you've said, like it's usually
yes,
wet and cold, lots of
yeah,
leaves because they all just fell, and it's the
yes,
Appalachian Trail. So, like, that part is like truly technical. Might be a
and
different type of technical than we're
yeah,
used to in the Rockies, but it's still technical enough where you're not
yeah.
just going to throw on your Brooks Ghost and call it good.
Yeah, yeah, like, and my ankles aren't stable enough to, like, wear the same, like, road shoes on that, like, I will DNF, like, I still
Talk about
probably
nerve
could.
damage. Your ankle has.
Yeah, like, I
Ugh.
have to be so careful in technical stuff that, like, that's why I've just been running gravel and road, and that's what leads me to this shoe, which was my, uh, experimental gravel shoe,
Yeah,
which
which last year you started Javelina, and you had talked about wearing this shoe, which for
yeah.
listeners, those of you on Spotify or just listening to the podcast, this is
Yeah.
the, what is it? Brooks
Brooks Hyperion, even though it looks like it should
Hyperion.
be Hyperion, whatever,
Hy-
Max
yeah,
2.
Hyperion.
Yeah,
We
it
could
looks
say
like
it
it should be
anyways.
Hyper Ion, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"What?" But it's a
it is Hyperion though.
Hyperion 2 Max.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and so I did bring these to Javelina. I mean, I only did whatever, 100K of Javelina last
Only
year.
did 100K.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and I was
still
like, "I'm not
awesome.
having a good time anymore. Um, this sucks." Um, but I ran in the North Face, should have changed, my feet kinda
Oh,
got
okay. Yeah.
annihilated, but,
But you had talked about doing this like a year
yeah,
ago.
yeah, and I finally did it. So Brooks changed up this shoe in version 3, and, like, the upper on this one I love this shoe. It's great. And so I just didn't wanna buy the
So
new
this is the
one.
one you were doing a lot of road stuff on
Yes.
and
So I've
gravel.
run in the shoe a lot, and I bought, like, 7 pairs of it. I went a little nuts. Um, and I just thought I want it to be a gravel shoe, and so my friends at Vibram hooked me up, and so they filled in the Sky Vault with, like, um, some foam, some, like, light
Yeah,
foam.
which is like a hole cut out
Yeah.
in the
Probably
midsole from underneath. And so there were some people on Instagram asking about that, like, what
here,
did you do with that? So they filled it in with a different foam. Okay, there we go. If you're
yeah,
watching, you can see
yeah.
it. Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, they filled it in with a different foam, and this one, I mean, the road shoe is stiff, but, like,
Hmm.
this is very, like, it is stiff.
Okay.
Uh,
Which
and
we've kind of went back and forth with Brooks. So they've really have like the supercritical midsole, the nitrogen infused
yep,
midsoles, which in some cases have been really great for us on the trail side. I think in general they've been good on the road side, but ends up being a little bit more of like the medium soft or maybe like a medium density overall,
yeah,
would you say? So then
yeah,
adding that little puck of foam underfoot and a full rubber coverage made it
yes,
even more stiff. Did
yep.
it help with stability too?
I think so, like, I thought this would just provide, like, okay, so when I've run on gravel roads on this, I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine," like, I'm curious how much this will change it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just an outer, it's probably not gonna do a ton. It is a completely different experience. Um, like, I didn't realize how much traction I was actually losing in the in just, like, the pure road version.
Yeah.
It's, like, a decent amount that I'm, like, pushing off and not being propelled forward, and with this
Which
one,
which
it
makes
feels,
sense.
yeah.
It feels
Keep going.
what? Finish that. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, it just feels like I'm actually not, there's, like, no sliding back. It's like I'm
Mm.
pushing off and I'm not losing, like, any efficiencies or
Yeah.
inefficiency to just like the terrain or any like of the
Yeah.
like loose over hard kind of stuff.
Which this
Um,
is like the classic way of when trail shoes were becoming a thing. This was the way that brands would go about it. They just pretty much throw a different outsole on it to
mhm.
accommodate for that slipping action, which I mean, I love just being able, yeah, just a nice solid power
Yeah.
transfer, not losing any ground. So it makes sense. Have you run in it much?
Not a ton, just a little bit because I like kind of hurt my knee right after that. I'm reviewing this, so I'm
Ooh,
trying
yeah.
not to
The
run in
Craft
anything. Yes,
Nordlite Ultra
pro.
Pro,
Yeah, so I'm
which
trying.
we have done the Nordlite Ultra 2 or yeah, Nordlite Ultra 2. That review is up, which I won't say too much of my experience. I wasn't on the review and I didn't finish out my miles in it just from we had plenty of reviewers on it, but overall they liked it. They liked the efficiency, really liked
Yeah,
the outsole, being able to be, think of it as a versatile shoe to cross over between pavement and gravel.
yeah,
But the foam is different.
and that's like I wasn't sure about this shoe, and like I don't know. I think as someone who my day job is marketing, when I look at their marketing, I am confused
Okay.
because it's like, this is a gravel shoe, but all the photos and a lot of the descriptions are like trail to gravel and it's like on
Which,
trail.
to
And
be
it's,
fair, I will say this too of like talking at Mammoth Trail Fest with the craft team specifically.
yeah,
And this has been my take on it pretty much since like Solomon was really starting to lean into the gravel. Craft started to
yeah,
was like the original one leaning into gravel. Now we have a lot of brands leaning into gravel. So the idea is that gravel is actually just light trail. And so
okay.
they even said like Western states, we would call that gravel.
Interesting.
So most of that course would be considered gravel. So when you think of it that way, of like,
Yeah.
okay, a light trail shoe.
That's
So,
so that's what I've been running in is like somewhat non-technical trails
mhm,
and then like gravel paths that are like around town, like the path next to the bike path that's
yep.
paved. Um, and I mean, it's great. Like I'm enjoying it. I think I've just always had a little bit of a problem with the CR foam. Um,
Which
it
is
takes the
another
wear
one of
down.
those things that depending on the shoe, and they have this with Nike, any brand that has a proprietary foam, the foams are actually like even different between shoes, even if it's called
Yes.
CR foam. So I too had some issues with this particular CR foam
Yeah.
because it's really dense. They say it's like the softer, more energetic, which I think for longevity could be good, but you
Hmm.
have to want to be able to put in that 100 miles to really get the good character out of this
Yeah.
shoe, which you might not. It was a little
That's,
blocky to me, to be
yeah.
honest.
That's what I'm struggling with is that. And then this one, and this is again, I think an interesting design choice for like light trail gravel is like the
Hmm.
toe protect is so beefy
Okay.
that it feels like it's for a very technical trail. But I'm like,
Maybe
if
a
I want
good
to gravel,
kickball shoe.
yeah, I'm just like this. It like is a really annoying going down a hill
Okay.
because it's
Which in
like
the classic version, the non pro version, it's medium. I would say medium protection, a
okay,
lighter protection. And that's the difference between the pro version in the Nordlight and the Explorer is it's really just an
yeah,
upper change to a more technical upper that you
yeah,
could, for a race day, you're going to feel more secure. It's going to be more durable, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Mary Denholm, who we've had on the podcast a couple times, once as like a Roadrunner OTQ, and she also crushed Leadville last year in her first trail races, like just like handful of minutes pretty much off of course record.
oh yeah,
In her first 100 miler, like absolute crusher on both roads and trails. She's a craft athlete and she just won Kodiak 100K, which is a UTMB race, so now she can get into CCC. Like she qualified is like a golden ticket for CCC, but she was wearing this shoe. And so I'd be interested to talk to her, like how many miles does she put on it? And having been in a lot of like Kraft has her own super shoe for the road, which is quite a bit softer than this shoe.
Did she race JFK last year? Someone
Maybe.
was second in Kraft.
Perhaps. I wouldn't doubt it. That'd be like an amazing race for her, I'm sure.
But whoever it was, I'm really bad at like knowing a lot of the race stuff.
Besides the 2014 Solomon team?
Yes, besides the 2014. That's where I'm like, in cycling, this is like a total side tangent. In cycling, at a bike shop, we've always called some people like 2010 till the end, where like it's people that thought like
sounds like your song choice too. It's your Spotify playlist that you use when you're running, right?
Yeah, 2010 till the end. And so maybe I'm like 2014 and like that's where like my knowledge like peaked out. And after that, I'm like just stuck.
Perhaps you'll have to test that out. But I mean, even so, like there are some athletes choosing to wear this even over some of the other shoes that they have at their disposal. But I Justin, who went with me out to Mammoth too, he had this, and he's a bigger runner. He reviews, he's like the Clydesdale runners for Believe in the Run, and he really appreciated this. So I think like a heavier runner would be able to not bottom this out. It is still a super critical midsole. I really do think if it could soften up even just a little, like it'd be such a more pleasant experience. But I don't know if I'm willing to get there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be straight with you. On the first run, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a run. I think it'll probably be like whatever, 13 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I started in these and I was convinced I wasn't going to be able to make it 13 because I thought it was going to hurt too much. So I like made a loop where I would circle back to my car to change shoes if I needed. And I brought like the Cloud Ultra Pro. I kept them on for 13 miles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I was convinced my feet were going to be like absolutely destroyed, but they weren't.
Yeah.
But it felt
the upper, I enjoyed the fit of it. I do like the outsoles versatility again, but so much of the experience is in the foam. If they can get that right, which is pretty much their other shoes too, like their Explore 2 and their Explore Pro, that has a really phenomenal foam. And so if they can continue getting some phenomenal foams, and I'm trying to bite my tongue because I know of some stuff coming down the road that also goes in line with the shoe that you put an outsole on. Like I think there's a lot of hope for the future, let's say, even if this isn't exactly what we would hope it to be.
Because I'm gonna race allegedly Black Canyon, and so I'm like, that's kind of not crazy technical.
That would be another considered gravel race.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I was almost thinking about that Brooks that you just reviewed.
The Cascadia Elite.
Yeah, Cascadia. That one seemed fun. Although I'll probably roll my ankle in it, so probably not.
No, it's actually more stable than it looks, but it's so much softer, and it's nice. It's really nice. We'll have to bring that one up again. We've gotten a lot of YouTube comments of like, oh, why have you put out this review so early? We're not going to remember it in 6 months. You'll remember it in 6 months. It's that good of a shoe.
You'll remember it.
We will remind you.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about your shoe choice coming up for. Were you saying that you're going to use that Brooks Hyperion Max 2 with the Vibram outsole for JFK?
Maybe, unless we're racing in the Rocket.
Which, yes, we'll get to more details about what the Believe in the Run crew is doing at JFK with Hoka.
TBD.
Hoka. But it's exciting to say the least.
I'll be picky about what I'll race in.
As you should.
But I'm definitely racing in like a low stack trail shoe for the first part, simply because I do not trust my ankle at all. Like, it is so unpredictable.
Which most people do the trail shoe for the first
Yeah.
part, switch into a proper marathon road shoe for the rest
Yeah.
of it, even the gravel sections. But I think, again, we'll get to it more on a different episode, but the Rocket X Trail is really
Yeah.
a solid
It'll be
option for even the road sections. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed our experience in that one. The review is live for that.
Yeah.
By the way,
You had mentioned the Kodiak race earlier, and I've talked about how I don't know anything past 2014 in terms of racing.
yeah,
And and so we were chatting about the UTMB versus the Golden Trail Series, and I need some education, and I think you're the person for it.
I think I am the person for it.
I'm not
Because
at
I
all.
love both. See, my education has continued beyond 2014. I'm just like one of those. But you ask
I'm
me
Uncle
about football
Rico.
players or any other sports, I'm like, go Vikings, and that's all I can tell you. But in trail running specifically, like UTMB is focusing on something that the Golden Trail Series um, isn't. So I would say it's kind of like a diamond. And let's get into this next episode. But the essentials
Okay.
are, I think we're talking about World Marathon Majors versus Diamond League track type thing. And so,
I don't even know what Diamond League track is.
oh man, next episode, we're going to get into that.
I'm telling you, I'm like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, where I'm like,
You see
Coach
that
should have
mountain
put
over
me
there?
in. I'm like still stuck. I'm
Which I
just still
did
trying to
see.
throw a football over the mountains.
Yeah. Oh man, I just did see a clip on Instagram of Napoleon Dynamite that just pretty much every scene in that movie is amazing. But then maybe that's the thing for me. Like my movie sense, boom, done. We just got our first TV in our whole marriage since I've been out of the house in college.
Oh my
Like it's been like 15 years since I've had a TV in my house. And the only reason why we have it is because my parents were going to throw it away. And so
wow.
we're just like, okay, well, then put it in the landfill. We'll take it, I guess.
What's the
But
first thing you're gonna watch on it, or what have you watched on it?
well, we caught up on some series that we're well behind on.
Okay.
Like we're just now getting it. We're like episode 3 of Parks and Rec,
Oh my
which I've
god.
never. Yeah. And so
Killer.
we'll keep you updated. So that's my limited knowledge. But once we get to
Okay.
talking about UTMB series and Golden
Okay.
Trail series, let's do that next week.
Okay.
You have to get to a PT meeting.
I know. I'm gonna come back. Like, if anyone has ever gone, well, one, if anyone has pelvic floor dysfunction or thinks they do, please reach out. I will talk to you about anything. Like, nothing is off limits for me. I'm like, I'll talk to you about my pelvic floor, a divorce, and then a shoe upper. Like, you name what you want, and
Yeah,
I'll see
Reese
you
really
on
is an
Steamboat
open
Willie.
book.
But like, okay, I think one, I just want to open it up. Anyone reach out, but
Yeah.
like with dry needling, it's like such a deep pain sometimes, and I hate that immediately afterwards you end
Oh,
up very sore, like instantly. And so
see,
that's the only part I'm like kind of
this is
hobbling
what
after.
saved me this summer before we really go of like I would go
Yeah.
into my PT. She would work on me for like an hour. Allie Hummelberg, Raise the Roof. She's so good. Estes Park. If you need a great PT. And she's an absolute crusher. She took second at Leadville in her first ever 100. Her
Hell
only
yeah.
ever 100. Yeah. So
Oh my
she
God. My
knows runners.
physical
And
therapist is a hard rock finisher like multiple times. He's like a
dude,
total
see,
badass.
you
Yeah.
got to get those people who really understand and know you at the
I think
core.
it's confirmation bias. I want them to tell me what I'm doing is fine.
Well, but they're also, I mean, in some ways, but then I also got the talk last week of
Oh.
is the juice worth the squeeze? And I'm like,
Mm,
if you're saying that, no, it's not. No, it's not. I just want to be able to
yeah.
run pain free. But how I
Yeah.
was able to do it and get a good amount of miles in the summer is I would go in, get worked on, dry needle, and immediately after I would go run because then it avoided that kind of pain stage or
Yeah.
like, yeah. And it
Normally I
really
ride
helped
my
me get
bike.
some good long runs in.
Yeah, I normally ride my bike to and from physical therapy,
Ooh,
just so that, like, I'm moving right afterwards. Which,
yeah.
like, I'm anyone that's listening to this that's not a runner, I feel like probably thinks we're insane, where I'm like,
Yeah.
"I get needles shoved into me, and I just gotta
Yeah.
keep moving
And I love
so
it.
it doesn't
I
keep
love when
hurting,
they
and
start
I can't
electrocuting
stop."
me with it too.
Yeah, I'm like, "I can't stop
Yeah.
moving."
Yeah.
We just sound like we're, like, crazed.
Sorry. It's like, I think most people will understand. And if you don't,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We'll talk about other things next time.
Yeah, instead of, like, needles into various parts of our body.
Yeah. Well, I was just
I wanna
listening
get more
to
into this
last
lamp
week's.
that you electrocuted yourself on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You want to hear more about that? I got more. Actually, that's the extent of it. I would just like, when you're bored, you just kind of touch both screws and woo, get your.
I have so many follow-up questions for you, but we're already, like, at, like, an hour, so we'll not
Yeah.
have follow-ups.
We'll save listeners for that.
This is
Just
what you're
text me.
doing because you don't own a TV, you actually just have, like, a family lamp that you just
Yeah.
electrocute
Everybody
yourself.
gather around the lamp. 3 touches. Then we can go outside.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I gotta
That's
roast
not
someone, you
actually
know?
what's happening out here in the
Yeah, that's
boondocks.
not
We play outside a lot.
Okay, so our
Okay.
cult is pretty cool if anyone wants to join it.
It's so cool.
Um,
So cool. And yeah.
all right. This was a really fruitful episode too. Electrocution and
Catch us
shoot.
next week at.
Yeah. We'll talk about,
Okay.
I don't know, drugs or something.
We'll find. I'm sure that'll come up at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
That's when Thomas will be on and we'll talk about
Yeah, I'll talk about
drugs.
drugs with someone.
Yeah.
I'm in tie-dye, so, like,
Oh, you also live in Colorado, which is
yeah.
stylish.
Yeah.
Always.
I love
Okay.
tie-dye. Okay.
You go to
Anyway, this is
PT.
cool.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about UTMB. I don't even want to say versus Golden Trail World Series, but alongside in some ways.
Okay.
I know they're very much competing bodies, but there's, some nuances that I think I wish they would just
I need to
partner.
be educated. Bring me into 2025 at the end of 2025. That would be
Boom.
helpful.
But before we really go, I do want to shout out a few racers.
Yeah.
Some Americans, because we're Americans. And so if you follow along on the Golden Trail World Series, the basics are there's a series of races throughout the summer and it ends in a finale. And that all the way along you can get points, and that's the briefest way I could say it. And in the overall categories, we had a first-year pro, Taylor Stack, who runs from Brooks, also from the Front Range. He took 4th overall in the overall standings at the end of the season. For perspective, some people will know of Christian Allen, which hasn't had the most desired season, I know, but he ranked 15th overall. So that just shows like how amazing that Taylor Stack had of a season. And then Lauren Gregory on the female side, who's also lives in Boulder. I'm just going to shout out our mountain folks here.
Yeah.
She's
Colorado
also a
takes it
Fort
home.
Collins native. And
What?
so like when I coached, she was one of the athletes that like when I just started coaching, it might have been my first year. I remember seeing her on the track at like their hometown invitational and like
Yeah.
being blown away, because I'm just a Midwest kid, of like seeing a high schooler run with that much like power and
Yeah.
maturity at such a young age. So she's always been a great runner, multi-time like All-American, NCAA D1, Arkansas. So like that's
Yeah.
the kind of athlete she is. Took 3rd overall in the standings. And Anna
Nice.
Gibson, who just took 3rd overall she had 2 top 10 finishes. And I think her highest was 3rd overall in the World Championships, but she was 8th overall.
Jeez.
And then Courtney Coppinger, which is another Brooks athlete, and she took 10th overall. So go America.
Good showing.
Go US.
Amazing. Go us.
Okay, now we're actually leaving because we're running out
I
of
will
time.
be late. to the torture
But
session.
I'll describe why all this is significant with UTMB stuff next week.
Lovely. I'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Bye. Taylor with Believe in the Run, and today I get the privilege of sitting down and talking with Emkay Sullivan, and we had never met, but being a fan of the trail running world, you might know the name because she's become somewhat of a personality within trail running, not just as an athlete, but also as a host of a podcast, a coach, and adding some new accolades to her resume as mom as well, trail mom. So Emkay, welcome to The Drop. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you're a craft athlete, and we were just out in Mammoth. You and I were just chatting about it a little bit. I was there with craft, kind of getting the whole experience. I'd never been to Mammoth. You were there helping out Tim and crew, kind of commentating on some of the races. And I want to kind of just initially start here a little bit, and then I would like to get into your background of running. But just a few years ago, that kind of attention to what feels like a small town race just wasn't there. Like, what does it mean to you these days to be one of those people on the kind of the leading edge of trail running becoming a much broader worldwide sport?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a fan of, even track and field probably in high school. Like, I didn't even know anything about track athletes until I became one in college. But I'm such a fan of just like the sport of running. Like, my husband and I watched Diamond League for fun. We love the major marathons, and then we got into trail running. And my first experience with like live stream was actually when I ran Broken Arrow in 2021. And it was just such a cool thing that my parents got to like log in and watch me run this race from, they were in Nebraska and I was getting to do this here. And I've been fortunate enough that I'm also a very social person and I like to talk. I like to, be on the podcast and stuff. And so when Dani and I started to become friends, we decided to start this podcast together, and basically we've been trying to like break into the media space also because it is just so fun to like be a fan, and so it's fun to kind of be, I wouldn't even say that I'm on the forefront of like the live streaming portion, but like the other side of it, like the podcast side. And then Mammoth was kind of my first experience with the live stream, especially by myself. I had guests obviously every day, but I was kind of in charge the whole weekend. And my parents kept asking me like, how was it? And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at just talking. So like, I think it was good. But
you kind of have to be like, to be a personality, you also have to be such a fan of the sport because especially for trail and ultra running, like, for you to be able to talk for hours on end, because not like it just stops all of a sudden once the top three athletes come through. I know that's a major focus of it, but there's a whole lot more to discuss even after the fact. And so, one, I just wanted to say thank you for doing that, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that throughout our time today. But how did you come to this sport of trail running? It's still like, for me, like that's my world, it's my job, it's my passion. But that's for me. If you talk to many other people outside of trail running, it's still like, trail running a sport? So how do you end up landing a career in trail running? Like, how'd you get here?
Yeah. Well, so I am originally from Arkansas. And so most of the running that I did in high school was on the road, like just trying not to get run over most of the time. And so I was a pretty just like cut and dry track and field, boring athlete. And then, I was getting recruited out of high school and I came out to Reno for my official visit, and I saw the mountains. Like I had been skiing, growing up, but never lived in the mountains, had always lived somewhere kind of flat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just have to be here. Like I also loved the coach and I loved the team when I came out here, but there was something so just like appealing.
And that's University of Nevada, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was
or
just
Nevada.
Something,
how do you say it? I always say Nevada.
It is Nevada. Yeah. Everybody in my family is from Arkansas and Texas, and so they call it Nevada, and it drives me crazy because
I feel like that's the Midwestern way.
Yeah. It's very offensive here, so you got to be careful.
Yeah. It's kind of like you don't call San Francisco San Fran.
Yeah, exactly. Or like
Nevada.
Cali.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I just was like, I got to come out here and be in the mountains. And so I moved out here. And the university is half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from this really big park called Rancho San Rafael. And that leads out into this mountain called Peavine. And I got to run on these trails every single day. It took a long time for me to get to the point where I wasn't like tripping and falling on an almost daily basis because I'd never had to pick up my feet before. But the 5 years that I ran for the University of Nevada, I was a track athlete, but we ran trails for all of our easy runs. And so
that's amazing.
Yeah, we were super lucky.
What a way to usher some of those athletes into the sport that is today.
Exactly.
And I just wanted to mention, you're in Reno now, you had said, and you and I were just chatting before this about how Reno and where I live, it feels like a kind of a hidden trail space. Like when we come out for Broken Arrow and Western States, we fly into Reno. And I'm just like hoping I get a window seat because I'm just looking at all these winding roads and trails that just kind of disperse everywhere from the city. And I'm just like, man, this would be probably a great place to just come vacation for a little bit and enjoy. Like, do you feel that way? Like it's a hidden gem?
We have like 3 or 4 different like park areas in Reno, like on each, cardinal direction where you can, find a trail that goes for 30 miles. Like it's especially Peavine, which is kind of more like we stay away from it in the summer just because it's a bit exposed and hot. But the rest of the year, it's funny looking at my heat map because I've been running on Peavine for like 10 years, looking at my heat map on Strava. I'm like, man, I'm just like really getting out there and exploring all these trails, but it's like the same 4 trails that I run every time. And there's still so many other options out there.
Well, that's what I love about trail running too, of like, it could be like a different time of day gives you a different experience. Going out one way and back the other gives you a different experience. The season, like it feels like a different experience almost every time you're on it, but also you get that familiarity.
Yeah, no, Reno's a hidden gem, but I'm not upset about it because I get to spend a lot of time outside by myself, which is, as you know, very relaxing.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of the best part.
Yeah.
And like, I would say I'm an introvert. Would you say you're more extroverted, liking to talk? But even
Absolutely.
So, trail definitely gives you that solace.
Yeah, I think I think even extroverts need that time to like decompress every once in a while.
Yeah, totally. So you went to the University of Nevada there in Reno. Did you ever take time away after that, or did they just pull you in and you're stuck there in Reno now?
Well, I did live in Vegas for a short period of time after college.
Also another great trail town.
Yeah, we didn't take advantage of it as much as we probably should have when we lived there. But my now husband, boyfriend at the time, and he was down there for grad school, and so we lived down there for a year and a half, and that was when I was in my marathon runner era. Just because we had a bike path from our house, and it was super easy to just run that every day. But then when we moved back to Reno, that was kind of when we started to discover like trail racing a bit. Like I'd been trail running all of college, but we moved back to Reno in 2019 and signed up for a couple of like local trail races. Obviously everything shut down in like 2020, but before that we ran like Sierra Crest. I ran the 30K. My husband ran the 50K. Okay, yeah. That race doesn't exist anymore, which is a bummer. There was one
COVID killed so many of these great small town events.
Yeah, but that was when we started racing. And then in 2020 when, there weren't any races, we just spent hours and hours and hours like out in the mountains getting just outside time. And that eventually led to being able to run some like races by the time things opened up in 2021. And I've been on the trails ever since, basically.
Yeah, and was that a hard transition for you? Like, I know that being a trail runner now, and I came from a track and cross country background, like there's definitely some skill acquisition. But I mean, at the level that you were running at a D1 level, elite marathon level, like coming into the trails, like what is that transition like? Because there's not many of you yet, I would say, that have made that transition successfully at an elite level.
Yeah.
But what was that like?
I would say I still have plenty to learn. Like I definitely am very, very good at the California carpet US type races, just because it doesn't require as much technical skill as, some of the European races. But we have a couple of like really steep kind of trails, kind of off trails. They're only like a mile long. But every time I've trained to go over to Europe, the first time being Mont Blanc Marathon back in 2022, my coach, Rick Floyd, has had me do just reps and reps and reps of that hill. And coming down it is honestly more of a challenge than going up it for me, because the climbing is the easy part. It's the navigating like the sage and the trees and stuff on these narrow trails. But the more I've done that, the more confident I've become just in my downhill ability. And I feel like the first time I really felt that translated was World Championships in 2023. There was this like insane downhill to finish. And I just was like, if I die, I die. We're going to run as fast as we can down this. And I passed a Norwegian woman and a French woman on this downhill. And I was like, holy shit, I'm so good at downhill now. I still have my moments where I'm just like, this is not for me. But it definitely took me probably until 2023 to feel really confident in like my downhill abilities. But up until
2023's event was that in Austria?
Yeah,
if I'm remembering correct. And so those are like kind of like Chamonix, those steep.
It was very steep, very
jagged,
grassy,
technical. Oh yeah, which is not something we get very often here in the States.
Yeah, it was grassy and wet, and I was just like, and like when they get rutted out, it's almost like those cow trails. So you're trying to like find your footing, but you only have like 5 inches total to get your foot in the right spot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it was,
and then trying not to
confident that day,
blow your ankles out and.
Yeah, because I've got some questionable ankles a lot of the times. So
I heard on a recent podcast, Dani of the Subhub podcast, Dani's like, tape your ankles, folks. I'm like, yeah, just one of those courses. Oh man. So then like what? I'm just curious about this transition from like marathoning. We have a lot of most of our fans here at Believe in the Run are into that marathon side, and like making a transition to trails doesn't always have to be like so decisive. I think even now within running as a large spectrum, we kind of separate the two between trail running and road running, and like we can all just be runners, right? And like just because you went to the trails and we're on a world team at elite level, you didn't abandon everything on the road. Like, do you still run roads?
Yeah, I don't train on them often, but like as an athlete and as a coach of other athletes, I think the winter is the perfect time to like focus on something completely different. Like if I could run trails all year round, I would, but sometimes, we have a big snow year and it's just not going to happen. And personally, my strength is that I'm fast still. Like I still have like marathon strength. I still have 5K speed. And so since I started trail running, I still sprinkle stuff like that in pretty frequently. I think in 2021, I did a couple 5Ks on the track because I was still coaching at the university, and like there weren't any other races. So I was like, why not just get really fast at the 5K again for like a second? And so that year I broke 16 in the 5K and then ran Mont Blanc Marathon I ran Broken Arrow later that year. And I remember getting to the line and just having like the confidence of like, nobody here's faster than me, And so I think not enough trail runners like take advantage of the winter, like half marathon build or something like that. Because I mean, whether you're trying to be fast or not, like running economy is so important still for trail running. And the way you get running economy is by running flat and fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that transition too. And just to plug your guys' podcast called the Sub Hub, do you want to describe that real quick before I get into this next little segment?
So the Sub Hub is a podcast that I started with my friend Dani Moreno like 2.5 years ago now, I think. And basically we saw that there was this big gap in trail running media where most people care about, but also talk about like the ultra distances. So everything like 100K up really. And we were both racing sub ultra distances. We also cover some 50Ks because we kind of lump that in, but 50K and below. And like in Europe, those are big events, you know, like Sierzanol, Mont Blanc Marathon, Zagama. Those are some of the biggest events, oldest events out there. And we just felt like there was such just like a hole here in the US for that same kind of like racing. You have races that exist here in the US, but they're not covered well.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, you don't have young athletes like coming in and doing Pikes Peak Ascent or like doing Golden Trail. But once they knew about it, you know, like that kind of stuff really opened up in the US, I feel like. So, yeah, we started the podcast to kind of bring more awareness to it.
Yeah, and there's, for better or for worse, you know, in the US, we still have that bigger is better mentality. I mean, like, with the Mammoth 200 just finished, and that's like one of many events now of like, and of that distance, let alone how many hundreds, how many 100Ks. And you're right, like that's what's romanticized in the US. But there's been, for so long, I would say some of the best experiences out there happen to be in that 50K or lower distance, because a lot of times it's these iconic aesthetic routes. It's a little more accessible to athletes, and this is where I was going to go with this conversation of like, you were coaching track and cross country athletes out of college. Now there's a way, because of more of the sub ultra category, to kind of bring athletes who are highly trained, very fit, to acquire skills enough for the trails, and boom, we have this sub ultra category that they can hop into and experience and put that very unique fitness to work. Like, it's such an exciting realm of our sport.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the top collegiate programs are in places like, you know, where I went to school at the University of Nevada, where they're like near trails, they're running trails, you know, like NAU, Boulder, University of Utah. They're not like running roads every day. They're running trails. And so they some of them have part of those skills already. And not everybody is, one, good enough, or two, has the attention span enough to like, you know, go do track for the next 10 years once they graduate. But a lot of college athletes can see themselves like running around in the mountains for fun and then getting kind of competitive at it. So it's definitely, I mean, we see that it's happening more and more now with athletes like Lauren Gregory, Anna Gibson, Christian Allen, coming out here and having like lots of success on the trails. So, I mean, I get really excited about that because, I mean.
Do you see that becoming like a more standard thing? Like, obviously that's been the trajectory in the last, like, I would say 3 years of that becoming possible from like a brand investment standpoint of like, they can actually make careers out of that. Do you think that's going to be a sustainable thing for young athletes like that?
I think so. Because I think it's way more sustainable to invest in an athlete who's starting in these sub ultra distances instead of a 22-year-old who's going straight into the 100K. I mean, we've seen it like over and over again that you have these really, really young athletes that move up in distance and are really good at 100 miles, but then by the time they're 28, they're hurt every year. So I think as a brand being like, oh, this athlete like wants to run 10 VKs a year, or, you know, a handful of 23Ks and just be really fast for a while. And then maybe in 5-6 years, they're getting a golden ticket. And then maybe after that, they're winning Western States. Like, that feels way more sustainable to me than investing in an athlete who is likely to just get hurt down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way that it seems like it's going in terms of the industry and investment in the sub-ultra category. It's kind of like before, for a little while, it was like, is this just the gateway to ultra? But it doesn't have to be. Like, I love that it can still be a category within our sport that even like Max King, who has been around for a long time, has explored all ends of the spectrum of running, can still invest in that and do well in that side of the sport because of the support he has.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Kilian Jornet, he's the best we have. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's, you know, right now he's out covering all of our 14ers from Colorado over, but just last year he won Sears and all for the 10th time in a row. And the year before that was Zagama for the 10th time in a row. And so he can do it all because, you know, I mean, one, he's European, and so that's kind of more fostered over there. But
totally.
Yeah, we don't see that as much, I think, in the US, but I do think that will change.
I sure hope so. I think, there's avenues now. And even like there's some college programs like Western State here in Colorado. They have a full college program just for trail running, and they do sub ultra and ultra, but offering that, it would be cool to see that continue, that kind of investment outside of just brands doing that. Like maybe institutions can get into it too.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like big cross country.
Yeah, exactly. Big, more scenic cross country. So that's where you find yourself. Is that where is that where you want to be, like continue to want to be in that space? Or have you wanted to explore the big ultras?
Well, so I have had success at, you know, the 100K distance now. I have 2 golden tickets, one from Canyons 2 years ago and one from Black Canyon this year. And it was funny because I was like, I remember finishing Canyons and being like, damn it, I'm kind of good at this. But
dang it.
I want to be able to do both. You know, like, I don't imagine that I'm going to be Kilian Jornet, like, you know, level of GOAT. But I mean, we even saw it with Katie Scheid this year. You know, she can do it all. I want to be able to do that. So yes, I'm good at the 100K distance, but I think it's important to continue to do sub ultra as well. I mean, last year at the end of the year, I came back to Golden Trail at the end just to like kind of tune up for New York City Marathon. Cause I was like, wow, I've been training for 100Ks all year. I'm feeling really sluggish. And it was so fun to just like go out and push for 2.5 hours for as hard as I can, instead of having to like calculate my whole day out. You know, based on like nutrition and aid stations and how's it going to feel and all this stuff. It was just like, just go out and do it. And so I want to continue to do a little bit of both for the rest of my career, even if I do move up in distance.
Yeah. And it seems like I'm a coach as well. And there's definitely room on the performance standpoint of like, if you can be in pretty good marathon shape and then get even a shortened block that's more oriented toward ultra, if you're going ultra distance, or even just towards trail in general, like there's room for a lot of great performance just from that. Like we think of ultras as having to do like, you know, 80 to 150 mile weeks, and that's the only thing that's going to get you there. But that's not exactly the truth based on like science and experience and athletes all around proving that otherwise.
Yeah. I'm a pretty high mileage athlete, as in, you know, I tend to hang out around 70 to 100 depending on the time of year. But I also know that isn't for everyone. Like you look at somebody like Rachel Drake, who has the JFK 50 mile record, won Black Canyon 2 years ago, was top 10 at Western States in her first go around. She runs like 60 miles a week, you know, most of the time. And it works very well for her. And I found that I've even had periods like Black Canyon this year where I was a little banged up and I couldn't run as much as I normally would. And it was fine. Like I didn't have totally the day I wanted out there, but I think that was less about my training and more about my injury. So, ultras are less about big mileage, I think, than people think.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like the further you go, there's just a lot of problem solving that comes along with it. And I think that might be a barrier for many people who are maybe into road running or into that shorter trail running who want to make that big step up to something like an ultra. Just like the farther you go, in my experience, has like it just comes with a lot more problem solving and learning. Yeah.
And I even think that in this like age of professionalization, don't know if that's the word we're using, but of ultra running, I find that even like a lot of ultra runners are running into this like problem solving thing because we almost are trying to control too many variables in training with like heat training, sweat testing, nutrition, like all this stuff that you think you have it dialed, but you still have to go run 100K or 100 miles and anything can happen out there.
Yeah. Well, we've brought up Killian a few times and like rightfully so, but like he's one of those big proponents of like a day in the mountains is training. Yeah. Like that's as simple as it is. And of course he's experienced enough and knows enough that like if he wants to then bop into Western states like he did, of like he can just adjust his training accordingly. It doesn't have to be so specific in like controlling all those measures. Like the basic training is still the best training.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, obviously like doing the heat training is like helpful, but trying to control things to the point where you think that it's going to make your day perfect is like the big mistake. Mm-hmm. Whereas, just like having a big day out in the mountains where you're like, man, this took way longer than I thought it would. And I like wasn't prepared for this is always a good day to have in a training block.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps you, appreciate the process. Maybe you didn't enjoy every moment, but certainly appreciate it.
Exactly.
So then, like, I mean, as you're stepping into motherhood of like, are you the type of athlete that like, do you have something on your calendar that you're excited for? Are you just like, whoa, pump the brakes on everything, endurance and running? Like, what's that feel like for you?
It's been definitely a weirder transition than I thought it would be. I mentioned earlier that I was kind of hurt going into Black Canyon. And I've been having this Achilles issues for a couple of years and found out after I got pregnant that I have a Haglund's deformity. And you can't get surgery while you're pregnant. So I will actually be getting surgery like pretty soon after I give birth. Okay. Which...
Just do it all at once.
Yeah, we're doing it all at once. Yeah. Like we're getting the deductible out of the way. I'll just have a breastfeeding baby. We might as well just put me in a boot. But I was like pretty bummed about that for a while because obviously like nobody wants to get surgery. But my strength is that I'm fast and I can't be as fast as I want to anymore because I can't put the same amount of power into the ground. So it's something that needs to be fixed. But I think that in the long run, it will be very good for my return from running for like, or return from pregnancy as well. I think a lot of professional athletes run into just the want to like get back into it because we've all missed the feeling of like not being 25, 30 pounds heavier. And then you end up hurting yourself. And so I will have some additional time to like actually take care of my pelvic floor and my body and like all that stuff. And I think it'll be good in the long run. And so realistically, like goals on the calendar, probably not until like Broken Arrow, if I had to guess. That's kind of like the first little button that I'm putting on my radar because that's in June and that feels really realistic. And if I get back to it quicker, great. But I'm going to just enjoy the time that I have with my baby without having to like stress about coming back too quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And then like you're sponsored by Kraft and I know they have what is fairly standard, but I'd like to say more progressive still, a stance on supporting parents. What does it mean to have a sponsor that supports you in this? Like, this is a great part of for you as an athlete and as a human.
Yeah, I mean, I feel incredibly grateful and lucky. Anybody listening to this podcast probably knows that if this had happened to me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I'd probably just be like out of a sponsor by the end of my contract. But instead, I get to have like an actual maternity leave where I'm not like rushed back into training or racing. I also think that Kraft is just like a fairly progressive company anyways. I mean, they're Swedish. I remember when I asked for my maternity clause, like in my contract, they were like, MK, you don't need that. And I was like, I am from the States, so it would make me feel better.
Yeah.
Like, but they've been super supportive this whole time. Like, I remember telling my team manager and he like called and was like so stoked, and my teammates have been really supportive. So I feel, very lucky to not feel the pressure to come back quicker than I need to. And my husband is also on the team, and he has like some amount of paternity leave that he's probably not going to use because it's not quite the same,
Yeah.
And they've talked about even like lumping ours together for me if I needed
Oh,
more
wow.
time.
Yeah.
So it's like, they've been great.
That's amazing. And that should just be, like you said, it should be standard and not something you have to like put into your
Fight for
contract negotiation. Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. And like, I have 2 children, and I just know my wife's story personally, and like every pregnancy is so different. Even the 2 that she had and how her body responded. And for the first one, she was able to run like almost up to birth, but the second one, it was like many, many weeks where she could barely even walk. Like, it's so different.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome that there's like just flexibility for you personally for that kind of thing. And then like, that's just encouraging for, we've talked about some younger athletes too, of like, or just athletes who maybe are in the same phase as you, of like, that's something we should expect as a sport, like as the professionalization of the sport continues.
Yeah.
Of like, this is a job, right?
Yes. And I mean, I would say like, there's a sponsor part of it, and then there's also like the race qualification part of it as well. I did a lot of research when I decided that I wanted to get pregnant, because I was like, what can I get out of the way, before we like start this journey? And so when I found out that Western States had the maternity policy that they do, which is like if you get a golden ticket or if you get your name pulled in the lottery, however it is you get into Western States and then you get pregnant, you can come back whenever. I was like,
That's
okay, well
amazing.
then I definitely have to qualify for Western States, because this is like such a good
Chalk that up for
opportunity.
motivation. Holy cow.
Yeah. It was just an incredible opportunity. But even then, like, that information is out there. Like, it's fairly easy to find. But like, I've had so many people be like, oh, so you have to run Western States next year, right? And I'm like, no, like I can run Western States
Actually, yeah.
3 years from now, 10 years from now. And they're like, what? And so the amount of like other women that are like around my age that didn't know that are now like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. I'm like, yeah.
Well,
Make sure
it makes
you do
for
your
possibilities.
research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and just to like be fair, of like, they are super progressive on that
Very
standpoint
progressive.
of
Yeah.
even like deferrals and all that. And whereas like I entered a race earlier this year and have an injury now and I sought deferral, but the old way is like, nope, have your money. We already have your money.
Yep.
Sorry, you can't defer or anything like that. So that's kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. And so hopefully things like this in your career will continue to push that forward in other avenues within their sport.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. So then, I just want to make sure we're covering. Sorry, we'll edit this
You're
part
good.
out. do you want to get into some coaching things a little bit on your personal side?
Sure.
Because I know you're a coach for Free Trail. Do you have your own coaching practice aside from that?
No, I just I've been doing it through Free Trail, I think for 2 years now. And for me, it's just easier that way because then I don't have to be in charge of the administrative side.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to jog back a little bit. Let
Okay.
me make a little note here. Let's do 34. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of jog back a little bit. Okay, so MK, while you're on the sidelines nursing your wonderful newborn, you're also a coach, and that's kind of filling a lot of your time right now as well. And you coach for Free Trail, which many, of course, trail runners will be familiar with Free Trail and what Dylan Bowman has going on over there. It's such a staple for our sports growth. What is it like working with Free Trail and having your own, having the possibility of coaching when not in a university setting or at a school setting? Like, that's something that's also fairly new in our sports history, to have trail running specific coaches. What's that like?
It's been a lot of fun. Coaching at the university level was fun in its own way. Obviously, it just is very time consuming, which is why I walked away from it. You get to like interact with people, which is nice because you're there with the athletes. But track and cross country and marathon training generally are like pretty straightforward. Obviously, there's still a lot of individualization involved in coaching different athletes, but trail coaching is so different because each person is a different athlete, just like, on the roads and the track, but every course is different. There's so many different distances to get into. And so I just feel like it's almost more puzzle piecing than what I was doing prior. And I really enjoy that for my brain, just to like have a little bit more to think about instead of just being like, okay, well, these are the workouts that I know like work for 5K training. Like, so let's plug these in for this person in their life. Whereas like trail training, there's just so many more factors involved.
So as a coach, like if you're encouraging someone who's like just getting into the trail running side, like what are some like kind of basic level things that you focus on?
Volume is probably like the biggest thing. I feel like a lot of the athletes that I coach are like getting into their first 50K or their first 100K. And so it's like getting their long runs up while also working around their lives. I have a lot of parents, most of my athletes work. And so just trying to, I don't know, like build volume without like putting too much stress on their week. Cause I feel like that's like, most people can't just add like a 2 to 3 hour run in the middle of the week. And so trying to figure out how to get somebody ready for 100K, like mostly on Saturdays and Sundays. But also I think I mentioned earlier, like I think that flat, fast speed is pretty much valuable to anyone in this sport. And so in the winter, I focus a lot on, I'll encourage people to sign up for like a half marathon mostly, or like a 5K, 10K for the purpose of that. But during their mountain training, I often alternate between flat workouts and hill workouts because I just think it's something that's important to keep in your back pocket all year round.
Yeah, it's transferable skill for any surface you're on, for sure.
Yeah.
And if people want to, are you taking on any athletes currently?
Well, not in the next like 2 months, probably, because I'm in the process actually of like writing all of my athletes' training in advance, which is weird for me because I usually write like a week at a time. But I've told everyone like, okay, I'm going to write 4 months or 4 weeks, and for every week I don't go to the hospital, I'll add on a week. So that's been an interesting thing to figure out. But probably at the beginning of the new year, I would be taking a couple of new athletes. But I would
And would
probably
they
wait
just
until January.
Yeah. And if people are interested in using your coaching services, do they just go through Free Trail? Is that
Yes.
the way to go?
It's called Free Trail Experts. I actually haven't been on the website in a while, so I'd have to check it out. But Free Trail
Yeah.
Experts, and you can just like Google my name, and it'll pop up. And yeah, fill out a form. Harmony usually sends them over to me, and then I set up a phone call and see if it's a fit for both of us.
All right. That's awesome. And it's awesome. Like, I think we've just kind of come around to this conversation of like, you are at a lot of places of this growing sport, which is so cool. Has to be exciting. And yeah, like it just, even just 10 years ago of like the idea of having a trail running coach wasn't really a thing. You might be even just like a personalized running coach, I guess.
Yeah.
But now we have like Free Trail doing trail specific, and there's multiple coaches too.
Yeah.
And so under one roof, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I'd like to think that running is forever for me, you know, I do believe that I can be successful, you know, into my 40s, but I want to be around this for a long time. And so, you know, getting my hands in all those little buckets, like the training bucket, the podcast bucket, the live stream bucket, like that just makes it more fun for me in the long run, and hopefully keeps me around once my running days are a lot slower.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that is such a cool thing too. Like even the fact that I have a job as a more gear focused runner, like it's a full-time job, that any of us can have a full-time job in trail running, like no matter what that exactly means, is just so
It's
amazing.
cool.
Yeah,
Feels
so
dorky a
cool.
lot of the times, but
I know. Yeah. But it's the right kind of dorky I want to be.
yeah.
I want to respect your time. I know you have a baby coming soon. So what are you hoping to do? Anything that you're wanting to do before baby comes? Like, or has nesting just taken over?
I think I'm at the point now, because I'm at 36 and a half weeks when we're recording this, that it's just like that waiting game of like, oh my gosh, when is he going to come? I think if I could still run, because I had to stop running because of my Achilles and just, you know, being heavier due to pregnancy. But if I could still run, maybe I'd be a little more like, oh, I want to like get up Mount Rose one more time before pregnancy. But like right now I'm just like, I just want to like move every day. I've been swimming and biking. And so, but I have started hiking a bit more recently because my Achilles has been pretty nice to me. And so like last week I was like, I got to get up and see some aspens, because, you know, up high, the aspens are changing, but down here in Reno, I'm probably going to miss that change because I'm going to be like birthing a baby. So I was like, all right, I got to get up high to like see some aspens. And I did that with the dogs last week. But yeah, mostly like I am just hanging out at the house, trying not to be too impatient with this little guy. And yeah, just waiting.
Do you have any tips for mothers to be or athletes who want to be mothers too, of like, this is one of those things, it's kind of like ultra running too, of like, you have to experience it. And like, I wouldn't be able to give any tips because I'll never experience pregnancy and being an athlete like that. But like, what kind of tips might you have for other mothers? And
yeah, I think my biggest tip is just like, make sure that you're being kind to yourself. It's interesting because like I am obviously like 9.5 months into this journey, but now I have 2 of my athletes that are like very early into the journey. And so it's been exciting for me to have this idea that I get to maybe help them with this, like having just come off of it. But you got to be kind to yourself. I was not very patient with my body in the first trimester because I was like, this just doesn't make any sense. Like this little thing is like the size of a poppy seed and it's sucking the life out of me. And so I just kept like pushing through things that I didn't really need to push through. And now I'm at, you know, this phase. I haven't been able to run in 6 weeks. And in the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, what a tragedy. Like I cried. I was like, I'm going to lose all my fitness, blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, you would never tell your athlete that. Like, you know that that's not true. You've been doing this since you were 12. Like, your fitness isn't going anywhere. You're just giving your body the grace to, like, I don't know, grow a human. And so
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
it took me, I mean, it will take anyone who's going through this experience like plenty of time, I think, to give yourself that grace. But be kind to yourself. It's a lot of work to grow a baby, and your fitness is not just going to disappear in a year. So that would be my biggest advice. And the other advice I would give is, if you do know somebody who's experienced this already, reach out to them and find a friend. Because I got really lucky that, I know Rachel Drake, and she's just had baby number 2. And I remember texting her pretty early and being like, am I supposed to feel this way? Because, my coach and my husband kept telling me like, oh, like, it's because you're pregnant that this is what's happening. And I was like, no, that's crazy. But then when Rachel told me the same exact thing, I was like, oh, okay, this is why it's happening.
Yeah. Well, even for simple things, like I remember my wife got like, this certain belly band from a friend, and then also like running clothes that you wouldn't like just have on hand that you all of a sudden need, and like that kind of stuff. Like,
super helpful. So phone a friend.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very vulnerable to do it in the first trimester, but if you feel comfortable asking people, I would do it. I mean, I think I was like 6 weeks pregnant when I texted Rachel, because I was just like, I just can't do this by myself. My mom
and you don't need
was helpful, but she wasn't a professional runner. So like, I needed another voice there for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And now, I mean, you have something that you haven't had before. You got mom strength, and that's
going to be crazy.
That's going to elevate. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, MK, thank you so much for joining us today. Such a great conversation, and really excited to see family pictures someday soon, and seeing you on top of the podium whenever you get there again.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It could happen any day now. So we're just waiting, but not the podium, the baby.
Yeah, you
part.
got a whole, you have a whole fandom of trail runners rooting for you. So
thank you.
Good stretch, got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you wanna tuck run, it's the place to be. Yeah, it's the drop. D-R-O